Hello, I'm Coach Darren Slack with this week's Ask NFA. We want to thank everyone for the great questions you've been sending in and to please keep doing so we can keep serving this way. Today's question comes from a coach who shared a very honest struggle he was having. Let me read the challenge and then I'll read the question. Here's what he said. I coach quarterbacks at 4 different levels of football, and they all seem to have a common trait. In drills and in practice scrimmages, they set their feet and throw good balls. In games, they don't set their feet, they rush throws, and they don't throw good balls. Now, I've tried various tactics, chasing them with brooms, bumping them with shields, throwing bouncy balls at them, etc. I've also tried the mental game with deep breathing, relaxation techniques, and next I'm going to try visualization. This consistent problem across 4 different QBs at 4 different levels from 8th grade to high school varsity, well, I'm the quarterback coach and I'm the constant. I must be part of the problem. Do you have any recommendations, drills, or techniques to get quarterbacks to set their feet to throw in game situations? Now, first, I so appreciate this coach's honesty because I think he's speaking to a common challenge for many coaches, especially during this time of season. But I want to encourage you. I believe everything you mentioned you're doing is excellent for quarterback development, and it's not too late. I believe the changes you can make will help immediately and develop a pattern for future growth. This is the goal of anything we're doing with young quarterbacks. Now, while I do think that all you're doing is helpful, I think I might be able to shed some light on the heart of the problem. Here's my experience. Coaches invest unbelievable amounts of time distilling complicated passing concepts down to their most basic application and progression. They spend countless hours trying to remove difficulty and decision-making complexity to put their quarterbacks in the best situation possible. They filter literally hundreds of if-then passing scenarios, if this happens and this happens, down to something like the Billy Bobby process of a simple defender key. If Billy's open, throw it to him. If Billy's covered, throw it to Bobby. There can be a temptation to assume that the clarity of the progression from Billy to Bobby is sufficient to overcome all the stressors of the rush, the footwork, the throwing mechanics, etc. The quarterback's failure to perform a simple either-or concept when pressure is applied befuddles coaches every week. And here we are. The assumption that the solution is a simple progression with a defender key is insufficient in my opinion. It's not the only factor in the execution of the pass, and it's certainly not the most important. The answer is actually in the Billy Bobby description that I just offered. But it's not the progression from Billy to Bobby that's the issue. Quarterbacks get that part just fine. In my opinion, it's what the coach is asking the quarterback to do about making a decision between Billy and Bobby that causes the breakdown. If Billy's open, throw it. Now, what exactly does open mean? How is open determined? Do you know when a receiver is actually open? How would you define it, coach, and at what specific point is it true? I bet you if you ask multiple quarterbacks, you'd get lots of answers. Ask multiple coaches and you'd get the same. Being able to decide if a receiver is open seems like the easiest thing in the world from the sideline. But you put 9 to 10 very large men in the quarterback's line of sight, add pressure of the rush, the lights, the scoreboard, and the coach expectation and a little bit of teenage nerves, and the idea of open becomes even harder to define, especially for a young player. Increasing the amount of pressure on the quarterback in a drill and practice will help him get the ball out quicker from pressure as you described. But quicker doesn't automatically mean accurately to a receiver running in space. And we still haven't addressed the issue. What does the quarterback believe the word open means when it counts on game day? In my experience, I believe many coaches think the average quarterback understands what he means when he says throw it to the open guy. And frankly, they might feel if they explain what open means, we may not have the right guy back there throwing the ball. So they come up with other options. The quarterback knows if he says anything about his confusion, the coach will lose confidence in him, so there's a disconnect. There are many variations of how open appears to a quarterback, depending on his level of skill, his arm strength, his confidence, his maturity, and the competition level they're playing at. Open means something very different at every level the coach mentioned, all the way to the pros. This is why drilling pressure in practice is only a portion of the solution. Even adding a known progression or a coverage read won't resolve the issue. Why? The problem isn't his knowledge of the progression, nor is it the pressure. Your quarterback lacks a clear decision-making process of when and where to throw the ball to a receiver, so he hesitates or is tentative. He needs a way to determine how long to stay with each read in a progression before moving on to the next option. And he needs that timing directly connected to his required drop footwork. He has to have a way to eliminate choices faster so he can arrive at the proper decision. What he needs is a better definition of open. He needs a process. In the R4 quarterback training system Coach Dub Maddox and I created, we provided a process that is both universal and sound in its application to any passing system anywhere. Now, there isn't enough time to address all that R4 covers in this brief video, but it functions on the non-negotiables of pass routes timed to quarterback footwork, route breaks ordered by depth, and something we call accelerators to discern who will be open and where. Basically, it's an operating system or a process. Most coaches will say they have the first two elements already covered in quarterback footwork and timed route breaks in their offense, but they often miss or completely ignore the third most important component of the quarterback's decision process, the accelerators. Now, before I explain what I mean by accelerators, let's better understand how things break down so quickly for a quarterback who's under pressure. The quarterback can read the pre-snap coverage, but when the ball is snapped, everybody moves. And that coverage knowledge only provides the starting point of the progression that the coach wants. It does not tell the quarterback whether the receiver he's looking at in a particular space is or will be open. The coverage signals the overall intent of the secondary, man or zone and defender depths. But without a way to quickly decide if a receiver will be open, the quarterback is periodically forced to guess or to hope, and that's never helpful. The progression can be set by the coach as clear as day, but the quarterback must have a process that allows him to anticipate whether a receiver will be open at the end of his drop. The key component of this previous statement is will be. To know whether a receiver has been taken away takes too long, and it's the primary cause of quarterback footwork panic. But if he can see if the receiver will be taken away or will be open ahead of time, then his decision is accelerated. By addressing this higher need of the quarterback, which isn't to read coverage only, but to know by defensive technique played on a receiver whether he will be open, the quarterback knows exactly what to look for so he can more quickly determine if the defender has been or will be successful in covering the route. This faster determination is called anticipation. There is an anticipation component that every coach hopes to drill into their quarterback, wishing them to see ahead of time if a receiver is going to break open or separate from a coverage defender into space. This is the desirable trait we want in all of our quarterbacks. We use R4 accelerators to speed up this anticipation process in the quarterback. The R4 accelerators are a series of clearly defined, non-negotiable defensive pass coverage techniques required to be successful in whatever coverage a defense plays. Whether they execute these techniques properly in any coverage they play accelerates the quarterback's decision-making process. Either way, the quarterback knows what to do, and he doesn't hesitate. You see, by filtering the hundreds of coverage variables possible down to 3 simple accelerators, this allows the quarterback to anticipate defensive technique intent before it actually happens. We call the most potent decision-making accelerator we teach of the 3 the cap. Now, what is the cap? Every defender is taught to maintain a dominant position above a receiver and to play downhill to the tackle or to the breakup of the pass if possible. You can better understand the cap when you hear a defensive coach say something like, "Don't let anyone behind you, ever." In simplest terms, it's the effort of a pass defender to sustain a capping, controlling, or dominant position in the future path of the receiver. Whether the cap is pre or post snap, which it can be both, this awareness of the defender's effort to cap is a huge advantage for the quarterback and the receiver. If the receiver is capped, the quarterback moves on. If he sees he'll be uncapped, he makes the throw. Being able to discern uncapped space pre-snap and to confirm that post-snap just prior to throwing becomes a powerful antidote to nerves under pressure. The cap allows the quarterback to focus on the defender-receiver relationship and determine how much time he has to make the throw. It's not just a language thing, it's a decision-making thing. Because he knows what to look for, the quarterback can decide at video game speed who will be open and get the ball out accurately in the face of pressure, or escape safely. Now, Coach, I wouldn't change anything you're currently doing, but I would suggest you start engaging your quarterback's understanding of what open means. And to study the R4 cap accelerator as a part of your offense. I would suggest studying all of them, but start with the cap. If you haven't already done so, I would suggest adding the cap process to your pressure drills. Create route breaks thrown on rhythm or the last step of the drop that are to be decided by a capping or an uncapping defender. Teach them the required rhythm footwork to deliver the ball when the receiver breaks into uncapped space. And then reapply your pressure drills to see these game situation scenarios played out. If nothing else, you'll open a line of communication with your quarterbacks about what open means to you and how he views the same situation and what open means to him. If your quarterbacks pick that up well, then they need to evaluate their second and third option using the same cap principles, known in the R4 as the read and rush routes. You'll need to teach the hitch footwork required for each. Basically, it becomes your 3-route progression of rhythm, read, rush, release, or rhythm, hitch, hitch, release. Now the release component, the fourth R4 word, means to throw the ball away or run from the pocket. R4 is much more than what I described, but it's a process that will get you synced and started on your way to getting your quarterbacks less confused. With the inclusion of the timed footwork requirement in the cap decision process, I believe you'll see a significant difference in the quarterback's decisions. Coach, I very much respect that you are humble enough to admit that you might be the common denominator in this situation. I believe your assessment may be accurate. As the old and very painful saying goes, you observe on game day what you coach. I think these things can help. Now, because I know the coach who asked this question understands the R4, he'll be able to apply these thoughts more quickly. But I realize I could not drill down on the R4 process sufficiently here today for those coaches who've never heard some of these things. So, for those who would like more information on the R4 system and its process, you can go to our website listed here, and we have a book and some DVDs that will help immensely in better understanding and applying cap and accelerating quarterback decision making. We're not just trying to sell a product, we're trying to lay the groundwork for effective change in your future. And I would also suggest our NFA camps where we teach R4 principles of decision making and accelerating the quarterback's footwork and process to discern better what open means. R4 is a proven game changer in developing faster quarterback decision making processes under pressure. I do hope this helps you in your efforts with your quarterbacks, and remember, at NFA, we'll make you better, faster.